I think I'm a little early. And that's okay, because I want a few people to have a chance to get on and see that I'm on. So it's cool. But for those of you who are just tuning into one of my lives for the very first time, my name is Chandy Ray. I am a life coach, a certified life coach, and I specialize in total life transformation, mind, body, and soul. So individuals who work with me, they're able to have their image, life, and business styled by me personally, and I look at it more so as a ministry than I do calling myself a coach. But because it's pretty common, everybody has heard of a life coach. Not everybody really knows what a life coach is. And for me, the things that I help people and coach people through are things that I've experienced. And so I'm coaching from a place of experience. And then the cherry on top is that I'm coaching outside of myself because I allow the Holy Spirit to guide me. So I'm also coaching from a spiritual perspective as well. So whatever's going on with you, I consult and seek God, and I ask him to give me specific things that pertain to you and your life. So it's never going to be the same. Nobody's session will ever be the same. And so just throwing that out there right now. I'm going to put a link in my bio. Well, there's a link in my bio that you can click on, but I'm going to also put it in the comments where you can schedule a free 15-minute clarity call where you can see if me and you are a match so that you can do some sessions with me, and we can help you start getting to a place where you're transforming your life from an authentic place, not just a visual place, but an inner place that's authentic to who you truly are, so that you can start living out your purpose and start executing your dreams and start being your best self, even in the midst of trials and tribulations going on in your life. Because there's such thing as being able to have joy, unspeakable joy, when things are going on in your life that are not favorable. Okay? I've been there, done that, still doing it today, and helping other people do it. So who's on here? Hey, Elder James Tunstall, Kendra Bozeman. Hey, what's up? Thank y'all for being on here. Whoever else is on here, I see the numbers, but I can't see your name. But thank you for joining today. I'm going to do this live based on, make sure I have my title correct. Recall the kid in you. Recall the kid in you. What's up, cuz? I see you, Trey. Recall the kid in you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you a story about a portion of my life as a child. And then what I also love to do is to take situations from childhood and be able to parallel it. I like to tell stories and parallel them. So I'm going to parallel my childhood story to my adult story. But it's going to be just a little snippet of it. But the basis of the topic is going to be about visualizing and manifesting. And this is not just a word I throw around. This is a pretty trendy thing. It's popular. People talk about visualizing and manifesting and all of these things. It seems like it's a trend right now. It's the going thing. Everybody throw it out their mouth. People don't know how to do it correctly, and some people don't really know what to do at all, and they just spit out things that they hear, because it's like you jumping on this bandwagon of visualizing and manifesting. All right. So I'm going to talk about detailed visualization, strategic manifestation. Okay. I ain't going to get all into it. You'll have to book me for that one, where we can walk step by step and I show you how to do it. But I am going to share some tips that pertain back to recalling myself as a child to now. And so this is something that I want you to do as you're listening to me and taking mental notes. I want you to also be able to apply it to your life and recall the kid in you. And so this is what I mean when I say that. When it comes to visualizing and manifesting, I was doing that long before I knew what it was. okay? And in life, we have teachers, and sometimes we need to recall those teachers. And sometimes those teachers was teaching us things unbeknownst to them. They didn't even know that that's what they were doing. So, cute little funny story. When I was growing up, I was the only child for 6 years. And then there was a gap where another sister was born when I was 8 years old. So from the time, a 6 years old is kind of like my earliest memory of me doing things and living my life, okay? So 6 years old, I remember I didn't have any siblings. And so I was in the home by myself, or my parents were there. If my mother and father weren't there, then my mother was there, because my mother and father were military. And so my mother was National Guard, Army National Guard. My dad was in the Army. And if he wasn't home, he was somewhere overseas, Korea or something. And so me and my mama spent a lot of time together alone. And with me being the only child, I had to be creative. And I had to make friends with invisible people, with make-believe people. And I know I'm not the only one who has done that, but it's just very vivid to me. And so when I was 6 years old, I remember one of my teachers was my grandmother. And she doesn't know this to this extent, but I'm going to share it with her today. So my grandmother, knowing I'm the only child, that was my girl. That was my friend. I would kick it with her when my parents were gone on basic training and they were in the military. I would spend a lot of time with her because that was my babysitter, but that was like my best friend too. So this explains a lot about me having an old soul, all right? Because I grew up listening to my granny talk on the phone for hours. I mean, she never got off the telephone, y'all. And I would listen to these conversations that she was having, and I would think to myself as a 6-year-old, I want to have these conversations. I need to talk to people. But I didn't know nobody. And my little friends, we didn't have no phone or nothing like that. So I would make up a phone book. So this is the early part of how my teacher, which was my grandmother, taught me how to make believe. And I'll get back to the phone book. So she would call me. We always lived out of state or out of the country somewhere. She would call me on the phone and she would start off the conversation like this. And from there, it took off. And this began to make believe and the visualization in me at 6 years old. She would say, the phone would ring. She'd talk to my mama. My mama passed me the phone. I'd be like, hello. She'd be like, girl, did you know? Guess who I saw at Kmart the other day? And nobody told me what to do. It was just instant. I just knew how to fall in line. I was like, who'd you see, girl? Keisha. And she'd be like, honey, I seen such and such. And she had all them kids with her and blah, blah, blah. And she'd go on and on. And me and my granny would be on the phone dialoguing, making up this whole story about these people we seen at Kmart. She seen at Kmart. And she filling me in on their life. And these people weren't even real, and they was real to me, and I could see them, and I was on the phone with her just going in. And so that was the first teaching of visualizing, because as she would tell those stories to me, I would see my grandmother in Kmart talking to these people, and I would picture what they look like and all this. And so that was that first introduction. Now, me being in the home and remembering being around my grandmother and wanting to be on the telephone and have juicy conversations, I had to create some people in my life. So I was very creative as a child, as I am today as an adult. So I had a phone book that I created. I took loose leaf paper, and I don't know if I had a stapler at that time or what, but I put these papers together and I folded it and made me a phone book. And I went throughout the pages. And I would write down names. I would make up names. Tasha, Kim, Tanya. I would make up these names, whatever they were then. And I would draw their faces. Like, they were stick faces, of course, but I would draw their faces. And I would go through my phone every day and I would call them. I'd be like, hey girl, what you been doing? And telling them about my day. So this was early on. And when I say recall the kid in you, recall the things that you used to do when you were a kid and apply them to your life today so that you can begin to operate in your authentic self, your true self. And so my true self, I was a dreamer. I was a creative. I would ride my bike, and stop off at a house that I made up in my mind. I would know this house had a garage, it had this, that, and the other. I knew what the house looked like. And it might be a trash can, a big old dumpster that I was pulling up in front of, but I was talking to myself and riding the bike, and I was being very detailed about where I was riding my bike to and what my house looked like. And so doing all of that brings me back to me as an adult. Let me tell one more story. I do have some notes of some stories. So I remember one time as a kid, I was like watching BET, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna be on Video Soul when I'm big. I'm gonna be on BET, and I'm gonna be on Donnie Simpson. And like that was a dream of mine. I used to sing and write songs and record myself. And as an adult, I've written songs. I've recorded, albums and records and singles for people and for myself, and those things came to pass. I really did get on BET. This was stuff I spoke out as a child. I really did get a view on BET during a video back in the days when I used to tour and do music with bands. This stuff actually happened, and so God brought this back to my memory. And so another thing I used to do, I used to have events in my backyard, and I may have shared this before, but I used to have events in my backyard. I lived on an Army base in Fort Campbell, Kentucky, and we lived in an apartment complex called Lee Village. And I didn't have actual tickets, but I would, how you would get the sweepstakes in the mail. I would get the sweepstakes in the mail, and I would go around to the houses and pass out the tickets and tell them, hey, I'm having a talent show. And all these people would show up in the backyard, and my mom would be looking like, where did all these people come from? And I then showed all the kids in the neighborhood the dance routine, gave them what song they was going to do, and then everybody was in the backyard when I was having this big talent show. To apply that to my life today, that's no different than today. A lot of things that you did as a child, you're not doing much different, or either you need to get back to doing. But I'm not doing much different than I did as a child. Today, yeah, I got tickets that I sell for events, and I bring people, and I was able to bring a crowd when I was young and didn't even know what I was doing. I was always an entrepreneur. I was always a grinder. I always knew how to maneuver to get the things that I saw in my mind. And so those are just little stories, that I wanted to share just to connect you with me and who I was as a child and who I am today and how it's still relevant, okay? So today, when I talk about visualizing and manifesting and doing it in a detailed way, God brought it back to my memory of how I was very detailed as a child. And so today, when I see things that I want in my life, I wanted to move to a new state. Before I got to this state, I had to do a detailed visualization exercise to see myself here before I got here, in order to believe it and know that it was possible and it could happen. And so much like as a kid, I would go in my mind and I would say, I live in Dallas, Texas. I live in a beautiful home, and I got water around me. I live by the water, and I was very detailed. This is how the atmosphere is going to feel. Excuse me. You have to be very detailed about what it is that you want in your life. You can't just say, oh, I want a beautiful home and I want to drive this type of car. You got to say, this is what my house looks like. It's going to sit on this corner. It's going to be on this street. This is what my neighbors are going to look like. My neighbors are going to be XYZ. They're going to always look out for me. When I come out the door, my neighbors are going to be greeting me. My neighbors are going to have gifts for me when I come into the neighborhood. They're going to welcome me with open arms. And so I have an event coming up, and for many events that I've had that come up, I've had to do this whole visualization exercise, very detailed, so that those things can manifest. And so I imagine the conversations that the women are going to have at my event. I imagine what they look like, how they're dressed, where they, you know, women from different walks of life. What are they going to come there with? What are they coming there to expect? I'm going so strategic and detailed about what I see, because when you do that, then that's how you can manifest it, because you've already mapped out the blueprint and you told God exactly what you want, and now all it has to do is come to you. It's not as simple as just I just want that and that's it. It's like, do you believe that you deserve it? Do you feel it? Do you know that you can have it? And what are the details surrounded about that thing? You know, so that's it. I really just wanted to drop in, because it's been a minute since I've done a live. I wanted to drop in and just share my perspective on recalling the kid in you, and the things that you used to do. And that's the thing that I want to challenge you to do today, is to think about some of the childhood things that you used to do that you wish you did today. Maybe you operated in a certain freedom as a child. When we are children, we're innocent and we are free, and we think up some of the most, you know, dreamy dreams, and nobody can tell us that it's not going to happen or that it's not, you know, achievable. There's something in your life from your childhood that you can recall and you can apply to your life today that's true to who you still are. I don't believe that we're that far off from our childhood to who we are in our adult lives. I believe there are still characteristics that you carried as a child naturally and authentically that still are a part of you today. And so for some of you, you can recall the child in you and you can say, okay, that part of my childhood, yeah, I definitely don't want to be like that anymore. I was quiet, and I don't want to be quiet anymore. I want to do away with that part. Some of you may say, yeah, as a child I was quiet, and at this point in my life, it's a season where I need to get back to being that person who was quiet, and I need to listen and be attentive to the things that are happening around me without talking so much or being so vocal. Some of you may say, I was a creative as a child. I need to get back to that. It hasn't left you. It's just probably buried, and you can unbury that thing and you can still walk in who you were as a child. And so that's all. I just want y'all to recall the child in you and some of the positive things that you can apply to your life today as an adult that will help you and push you into executing some of your goals and dreams. All right. So I hope that this live was helpful in some sort of way, that I said something that could help you. But I ain't gonna stay on here too much longer. I'm gonna get on here and say hey to a few people. Hey, Miss Doris. Hey, Erica, Tisha, Tila, Miss Shatan. Thank y'all for being on here. I appreciate it. So I'm gonna jump off. But if you jumped on late, go ahead and watch the replay, and hopefully you'll get something out of it. All right. See y'all.